I really wish I could just rattle off um, the answers to these questions without having had already prepared something and then reading it off, probably in a not very smooth way. But I don't think I can. So I am probably going to do some reading. Forgive me. For question one, dealing with um, the stage theory of grief and how we try to square that with people's intersectional identities. Um, the first thing I thought of was expectations of certain identities to grieve in a certain way. I think the book may have touched on the trope of the strong black woman being able to shoulder, um, a lot of pain without needing support, which is unfair, and that I think that kind of extends into this hyper masculine idea of how men deal with negative emotions and grief. Um, and just the stage theory presumes that every human experiences the same when um, the intersection of identities in terms of our race, religion, class, socioeconomic status, culture, gender, sexuality, and all that stuff really impacts our subjective experience and would naturally impact how uh, we would grieve. And so it's really, I don't think, helpful to kind of hem people in and place this expectation on people to grieve the same in a specific order or in a specific way. That can be a bit, I guess, seen as coercive, as either grieve this way or we will pathologize you. Um, and this might not be very culturally aware. Um, and it touched on the fact that the constructionist viewpoint um, comes from an understanding that we all create our own truth, and from that basis alone, the way we approach grief is going to be fundamentally different because we all exist in our own subjective reality. Okay. Question number two. Why might a client be fearful of reporting sexual assault to the police? Um, this is related to secondary victimization because historically people have had bad experiences with authority figures, especially the police, when trying to report sexual assault. They can be dismissive, they could victim blame, or just not take their claims seriously, minimize it. There's also concern about uh, bringing the law into the situation means perhaps a loss of anonymity and how that might impact them in terms of retribution. Also, there's legal fees, and people from marginalized groups just have a historically bad um, track record with the police being responsive and compassionate. Okay, number three, caregiver hardly responds to their toddler. Such neglect would probably result in social competency deficiencies and probably an avoidant attachment style. An avoidant attachment style might make it more difficult for someone to later in life express their emotions, to form healthy relationships, and they might struggle with knock on mental health issues like self esteem issues or depression or anxiety because of that. Additionally, the model of parenting style that they received may be repeated, and they may neglect their own children. And number four, the body keeps a score. What is my opinion of the rationale for inclusion of DTD and the DSM? Well, I guess first of all, research backs it up. At least the book makes um, a pretty good argument that research backs it up. And if this is something that needs to be addressed, then diagnosis means that it'll be easier to get funding to research this and treat. Also, it helps to better describe to healthcare workers, teachers, judges, etc., what's going on with the child more accurately. And you can also have one diagnosis instead of 5 or 6 diagnoses that don't really fit what's going on and maybe pathologize or characterize their behavior in a really negative light and doesn't touch on the cause. This sort of encapsulates the etiology of the symptoms. And then also it can focus research and treatment. And then there's just a knock-on effect of how it might impact society in a positive way to be able to more accurately treat these people, or to treat people who are experiencing the effects of trauma, early childhood trauma. So you may have less incarceration, less substance abuse, and less domestic violence and violence in general. Okay, that's all. Bye.